Hispanic, Asian, and we certainly do. What I've seen from certain outreach efforts, I think the RPT is doing a good job. What I would like to see is a more of a focus to, once you get folks involved in a club, a Republican club or an African American Republican club or an Asian Republican club, let's also get them involved in the party itself, the party leadership. I mean, I think it's important to have these types of clubs, but only if our ultimate goal is to integrate everyone into our party and have our party reflect the diversity across the state of Texas. Too often, the clubs are result-oriented. There are too many metrics. RNC wants to know, how many clubs, African-American clubs, have you formed? 5. Oh, you must be doing good. Except they're all the same people in each of those clubs. The goal is to get people involved in the party leadership. We must reflect what the diversity of Texas. And here's how you do it. You start with the right message. The Asian community, Hispanic community, faith-based people, they care about family values. The social part of our party resonates with them. Asian community, by and large, they don't want to talk about bedroom issues. That makes them uncomfortable. Their culture doesn't allow for that. So we need to speak to them in terms of liberty and opportunity, and that they can achieve for themselves. We have to be savvy in the message. We have to carry that message to be most effective for the party.
We're going to start with you and come right back down the road. Tom Quinones?
Yes, this is directed to the operation of the SREC. Under what specific conditions would you believe it be necessary to call the SREC into executive session?
Good question. So the issue has come up because of the live streaming issue. And under prior administrations, they would just go into executive session and stop live streaming. My background, as I said, was on city council, and where we had executive session, but it was executive session for specific items. And they were laid out in the ordinance. It included personnel issues. It included financial issues and legal issues, those types of things. Everything else was public. That would be my default position. Most things would be public. Only the executive committee would be appropriate for financial, personnel, legal issues of that nature. I would hope to have some direction from the SREC. If that's going to be what our policy is, I'd like them to tell me the things that I can go into executive session for and the things that we shouldn't go into executive session for. But my default position is to be more transparent and not have executive session for all the different items that come up. I think that can be abused as a way to limit transparency. Regardless of where you come down on the issue of live streaming, I think we all agree the party needs to be transparent. Go and use the executive session as a way to shield and hide the activities of the party are not productive. It has its use for certain items, but by and large, I favor transparency over secrecy.
I just have to mention, I think it's ironic that Wade was up here saying we need to get more minorities in positions of leadership. I'm doing everything I can. I thought that was funny. I had to chuckle. But I really don't think that there'll be any. I don't think that there's any need to go into executive session. I mean, I really don't. I know that ministerial is not going into executive session. I don't see that there would ever really be any need. I think the party's worked very well now. I don't foresee that there'll be any, real complicated or private legal issues going on that we would need to do that. And so I don't think there, for the most part, would be any need for that at all.
Well, I think we need to err on the side of transparency. And during my 12 years as a chairman of the Harris County Republican Party, we very rarely went into executive session. The times that we did was when it involved personnel issues. If there was an employee that there were issues or allegations that were sensitive in nature and we needed to discuss them as a body, that was probably the only time that I recall us actually doing that. And so I don't see that happening unless there is maybe an employee problem or issue that needs to be discussed that doesn't necessarily need to be on the internet for everyone to see, but I would not anticipate that ever happening.
Well,
anyone's clapping, we pause. So, okay. Let me begin by telling you a little bit, give a shout out to the gentleman that asked that question. He and I served on the SREC together back from 02 to 06. I think he continued longer than I did. And the problem, the sensitivity about transparency, and after I stepped out of the race in 2010 and my political team met with Steve Ministeri and said, Steve, this is our biggest concern. There is no transparency in the party. So what does that look like? I'll tell you what no transparency looks like. That means you go in the executive session at 10 o'clock and you come out at 3 on an SREC meeting. It happened over and over and over and over again. It means that the financials were handed out and they were picked back up and collected. And one of the SREC members says, can I keep these financials? They said, no, it's all secret. You can't keep it. Everything has been different today. In the last 4.5 years under Steve's leadership and his commitment to transparency, we hand out detailed financial statements. That's all handed out. It's not picked back up. We review contracts with SREC members. Every question is a fair question. I will tell you that there is an officials committee of the SREC that meets. Those meetings are an executive session. Any SREC member can attend. They by bylaw, by the rules of the party, they are strictly prohibited to have any kind of recording devices. But the SREC in general, my position as a chairman, except as the attorney at the end of the table articulated for personnel type issues, don't go to executive session unless the SREC says, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to do that. Let's take a vote and go into executive session that way.
One of the things I would ask all of you to do is that a number of clubs have sponsored this. Steve mentioned that at the beginning. They have tables out there. They are in the program, and they have a lot of information. The clubs meet geographically all over the area. And I would, if you're not a member of the club, I encourage you to become one. You can become a member of more than one. You can be a Tea Party member and an Arlington Republican Club member or whatever. But you can do that. Many of the clubs have tables out there that have sign-up sheets that have, if you want to be on their mailing list, for instance, in the assembly, we do our mailing list, not just to members, but anyone that's interested in our programs. So you don't have to be a member, but you can't vote if you're not a member. There's not many things we vote on except endorsements. But I would encourage you to look at the tables out there for the individuals, and we thank them very much for being part of sponsoring this event. We will go to, I think before we go to closing, let me lighten it up a little bit. You talked about hiding that paper under your bed. I heard a story the other day by a friend of mine. He said he met this gentleman who was in his early 70s. He retired. He made quite a bit of money in his life. And he said, boy, he was going to do something. He was very conservative. He must have been a Republican all his life. And he bought a Corvette. And he said, I'm going to try this thing out. And he goes out. He found a country road out there where he didn't think there'd be any police officers or anything. And so he opens it up. And he's doing about 120 down the road. And whoosh, there is the highway patrolman. And his first thought is, I'm going to step on it. I can outrun this guy. And he thought, wait a minute. I'm a conservative. I'm a businessman. What am I doing? He just shut it down. Officer comes up and says, sir, do you know how fast you're going? Yeah, he says, yeah, I did. He said, the first time I'm in the car, and he said, I'm not used to it. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. He says, I get off shift in about 10 minutes. If you can give me a unique reason why you were going that fast, we just might call it a day. The guy thinks a minute, takes a minute. Well, officer, he says, about 20 years ago, my wife ran off with a highway patrolman. And he said, I was afraid that was you bringing her back. And he said, good day, sir. We are going to go at this point to a 2-minute closing. And because we've kind of run out of our time, we're trying to finish by noon. If you want to stay after noon, we've got a little time and we can take another round of questions. But at this point, let's stay with our timetable. And let's just go probably in reverse order as we started with Tom. A 2-minute close, and that tells it. They will tell us why they ought to be elected as the next state chair.
Well, I want to say thank you to those who put on this forum today. I think it was very insightful. I think if you brought a takeaway from this, we have 4 great options. We've had a lot of discussion today about focus and vision for the party. Really the question is, who do you think is in the best position to do what they say they will do? From fundraising to outreach, to inclusion, to having an even playing field, during meetings. Who do you think is in the best position to do what he or she says they will do? I've been the county chair in the second largest county for the last 3.5 years. I've had to live in this environment. Steve has put us in a great financial position. He's brought credibility to the party. We have to have someone who can hit the ground running and take over for Steve when he resigns. I've been there. I've done that. It's not lost on me that Dallas County is in a lot of ways a microcosm of the state. We face some of the same interest groups that you see across the state of Texas. We've had to respond, we've had to raise money, we've had to carry our message across the county. I can do that as the state chairman. But aside from my experience, I want you to know my heart. I think our party is strongest when we work together. I won't serve any special interest group. My goal is to serve the constituents, the delegates, and the SREC. As chairman of the state party, I'm not the president. I'm the chairman of the SREC. I facilitate the vision and the voice from the SREC and represent the party in the media. I can do that. I've done that. My experience uniquely qualifies me to hit the ground running and make a difference and keep Texas red for the decades to come. Thank you very much.
So I believe we have a great opportunity in selecting another chairman. I am looking forward to working with you and serving with you. Tarrant County has always been a big supporter of mine. I believe I have the experience to serve as your state party chair now. I'm currently your national committee man. I'm already traveling the states. Many of you I already have relationships with and know you very well. I've traveled all up and down the state, down in South Texas and Brownsville and Harlingen. I've been out to El Paso. I'll be going out there again next week. And so there's a lot of things going on that have been taking place that I've been engaged and involved in. I've been vice chairman of the state party. I've seen things run well. I've seen things run not so well. And so I've learned from those things. I'll tell you, this is a great opportunity that we can have someone who is going to advance a conservative agenda, social conservatism and fiscal conservatism. It's a great opportunity that we can have someone to take those values not only to our own people, but take those values to African Americans, to Hispanic Americans, to Asian Americans. It's a great opportunity to have someone who can take those values to the general marketplace and begin a rebranding effort of the Republican Party. We are a party that is giving. We are a party that is caring. If you look at our charitable giving, it's the Republicans that are giving all the money. It's the Republicans that are going on the missions projects. It's the Republicans that are actually helping inner city kids. It's the policemen that are saving inner city kids. I'll tell you that we have to get that message out. And we have to have the right person to get that message out. And I'll tell you, I plan on tirelessly working, fundraising, managing, doing the things necessary to get that message out because it's vitally important to our party, it's vitally important to our state, and it's vitally important to the future of this nation. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Well, again, I want to thank you for being here today, spending time away from a whole lot of other things you could be doing. And I like the story of the mom who got up one Sunday morning and she went to wake up her son. She said, "Son, it's time to get up." Came back 5 minutes later, he was still sleeping. Shook him again and said, "Son, it's time to get up." She came back again and he was still sleeping. Shook him real hard and said, "Son, it's time to get up." He looked her right in the eye and said, "Well, you give me 3 good reasons, Mom, why I should get up." She said, "Well, 1, it's Sunday. We go to church on Sunday. 2, it's the right thing to do to go honor the Lord. And 3, you're the pastor." Why do I say that? Because it's time for us to wake up. And there are too many folks out there right now who don't understand and appreciate that we're in a fight, ladies and gentlemen. When you look over in the left coast and you see them trying to remove under God from a pledge, our pledge, we know we're in a fight. When we see marriage being redefined all around this country by activist courts, we know we're in a fight. When illegal aliens get better health care than our veterans, we know we're in our fight. And when our kids have to go through metal detectors to get into schools they're not allowed to pray in, we're in a fight, folks. And the truth is, we need to take the battle to the left. We can't be ashamed. We cannot hide our principles and values. We need to take that party platform all across this state and be proud of it. And the truth is, the Bible calls us to be salt and light. But salt doesn't do any good unless it comes up against that thing it's trying to preserve. And light hidden under a bushel, it certainly doesn't shine and make a difference. So I can promise you this. As your Republican Party chairman, I will boldly take our party platform all across the state. I will not compromise on it. I will not bow and I will not bend it. We will hold both Democrats and Republicans accountable to that platform. Amen. Because those principles are what we rally around. It's not the position or the people. It's the principles that should bring us together. It's those principles that motivate us to get in this fight in the first place. And I can promise you this. It's those principles and those values you created that I will be loyal to. Thank you for your time.
Yeah!
Wow, praise God, Jared. If Jared didn't win this race, I think he ought to be a preacher, and I think I'd go to his church. Folks, let me tell you, this race is not about the four of us up here. I know people are saying, yeah, we're picking a chairman. You know what this is really about? It's about you. This is about who do you have confidence in, who do you have trust in, who has the capability to pull this thing off, and not let us go backwards. That's the biggest problem. Let me tell you, you want to know where we've come from? It was $850,000 of debt. The party was basically bankrupt. Why did we end up in bankruptcy? Because the people we owed the money to, there were no assets, so they figured we'll take a chance on a new chairman. Maybe they'll pay us back. That's what happened. Tom Washington's here as assistant treasurer, found invoices and debts that weren't even booked. That's how bad it was before we got into this thing. And Steve was elected. First thing he did is he paid off the debt, $850,000. We had $700,000 in the bank after it was all over. That's the past. Today, where we are today, there's close to $1 million in the bank, and as Gene, I think Gene mentioned, they articulated, there's zero debt. There's zero debt. We cannot go backwards. The chairman of this party will determine whether or not that's a possibility based on the leadership of where we come from and where we're going. I'm not going to tell you that, I'll tell you very firmly that I don't think that we should say that where we are today should be the high water mark. Oh yeah, we really had some great times back in 2014, 2015. Folks, it's the vision of where we go beyond that. It's not just where we are today. Not every issue has been resolved. We've got a lot of work to do when it comes to minority engagement. We've got issues with respect to a 40-page platform that people don't read. We've got to find a way. If I'm the chairman, I am going to have Amy Clark take a committee, go around state, meet with all of you, get your input, not about the content, but the structure of the platform. Let's find a way to solve the problems that we still have and go to the next level and not just say, okay, well, that's good enough for us. No, good enough for us is a future of excellence. Thank you.
Again, I want to compliment and thank the panel for staying on the timeline. We're doing pretty well. I want to thank our panelists for being here, all of the sponsors. I have a word to our candidates, and let me tell you one of the things that I've said in the leadership courses that I teach is that one of the first jobs of any manager is to train their replacement. Many people don't want to do that, particularly in politics. They're afraid that the replacement might learn more than they know and supplant them. That means that it's about the individual, not the organization. For the organization to continue, there has to be a pool of leadership. Now, that doesn't mean handpicking a successor, but it means getting leadership opportunities to people that have the potential to be in that pool of succession. And without that, the organization will falter and stumble somewhat. In terms of issues, we probably have a very diverse group here today. Fred Meyer, former state chairman, now deceased, said the party stands on a four-legged stool. A strong national defense, a free market-driven economy, minimal role for government, and traditional family values. Now that's going to encompass specific issues for many of you, maybe all of them for some of you. But the point is that if we lose any one of those constituent groups that represent these issues, defense, economy, minimal role for government, that's freedom, and then traditional values. If we minimize or put those people aside, we won't have enough votes to win elections. We need that Reagan coalition that we talked about earlier to pull all this together. Again, thank you for the candidates for the travel that you've done. You guys have got a big state to deal with, and it takes a lot of time. Steve Atwell at the beginning mentioned the working team. I'm going to throw out, I'm not going to reiterate or rename them, but I will say that Steve probably was the guy that was pushing all of this behind the scenes. He kept hammering and nagging and calling and making sure that things got done. And so Steve kind of, along with going to his SREC fellows and getting them to participate in this thing, was the thing. The other one I want to comment on is Mr. James Avey and this magnificent sound system that he's... James, stand up, James. James purchased this out of his own pocket, and he uses it for political activities. And the flags are Mr. Avey's. And so... I told him now that he's retired, he needs a side career as a DJ, because he's got the sound system. Let's see, Jeremy, would you give us a little bit more about the straw poll and how you want that handled at this point?
Yeah, if you didn't take an opportunity yet to deck out, if you're waiting until the end to know which way you're going to go, the buckets are out the doors there. If we can get those open, tables right in the middle of the room. Unless Atwell has another preference on how he wants to do that, we've got one bucket per candidate, so we probably just need to take some time out to file out there and cast your ballots. Sorry? Right, there's one for each candidate and there's one for none of the above.
Then as soon as you count the votes, it'll be announced back.
Right, we'll give you all time to go out there. I'll check with people how long we have, but once we're done, we will bring it back in here. We'll count them in here in front of everybody, and the candidates will send a couple tellers up here. We'll do that. It's labeled under the above. So cast your votes, and we'll see you all back in here in a bit for the results.